Hospitals are supposed to heal. But inside Northlake Regional Medical Center, patients in the care of nurse Alyssa Ward didn't heal. They died. Quietly, unexpectedly, almost peacefully. For months, the pattern went unnoticed. Because how do you blame the one nurse everyone loves? Alyssa was 32. Warm eyes, soft voice, patient smile. The families adored her. Doctors praised her bedside manner. Administration called her the heart of the night shift. She brought cookies on holidays, sang gently to dementia patients, held the hands of dying widows who had nobody left. Co-workers said, she cared too much, but that's the kind of nurse you want. Nobody suspected her, not even when the deaths began stacking up. The first patient was Roger Gibson, age 67, recovering well from abdominal surgery. Doctors said he'd go home by Friday, Thursday night. Alyssa took over his care. At 2:11 a.m., Roger was dead. Cause of death listed as sudden cardiac arrest. No autopsy, nothing suspicious. He had lived a hard life. It was possible, but the charge nurse later whispered he wasn't crashing. He was improving. The only unusual thing? Alyssa documented that she was comforting him shortly before he died. That detail would return later like a ghost. Then came Eleanor Reeves, 81, walking and talking the day before. Marcus Hill, 52, stable, post-heart procedure. Chloe Ward, 26, a rare young patient who should have lived. All within 3 months. All on Alyssa's shift. All officially unexpected but natural. Except none of them were natural. Behind closed doors, Alyssa whispered each of them, "You're safe. I won't let you suffer." Patients describe her as too attentive, sitting with them for hours in the dark, holding their wrists gently as she checked their pulse, brushing their foreheads while humming lullabies. One patient, who survived, told her daughter, "That nurse, she watches me even when I'm asleep." No one took it seriously, because Alyssa was the one person everyone trusted. Detectives would later uncover something her supervisors never knew. At 19, Alyssa cared for her dying grandmother at home. The old woman suffered, moaning, trembling, gasping. Alyssa told police years later, "She begged me to end it. I couldn't watch her hurt anymore." Her grandmother died in her sleep that night. Cause of death was natural, but some in the family whispered otherwise. Alyssa learned something powerful that night. If she controlled the pain, she controlled the moment of death. And that control became intoxicating. Nurses called her the night shift whisperer because Alyssa loved the quiet hours, the hours when patients were most vulnerable. She volunteered for every overnight shift. The darker, the better. It was during these hours that she developed her ritual. Close the blinds, dim the lights, hold the patient's hand, whisper softly, "It's okay, just let go." Administer a fatal dose, fast, precise, practiced. No screams, no alarms, no struggle, just silence. Dr. Benjamin Clark, pulmonologist, reviewed his cases one evening. 4 of his patients, all under Alyssa's care, had died. Unusual, concerning, but still just numbers. Until the 5th patient died, minutes after Alyssa left the room. Clark confronted her gently. "Dr. Clark, I don't understand how all my healthiest patients die on your shift." Alyssa, smiling softly, "Sometimes the body gives up without warning." Clark didn't buy it, and for the first time, someone wrote an incident report with her name on it. Small, quiet, ignored, but it was the spark that built the fire. The turning point came with Chloe Ward, the 26-year-old. Alyssa told the grieving parents, "At least she didn't suffer. I took care of her." That line haunted Chloe's father. Why I took care of her? Why not we did everything we could? Why did it sound like a confession? Chloe's family demanded an investigation, and that's when the police stepped in. When everything began to unravel, when the angel nurse finally became a suspect. The moment Detective Ryan Mercer stepped into Northlake Regional Medical Center, he sensed it. Fear. Not the kind that comes from loud emergencies or chaos, but a quieter fear. The kind that lives in whispers, in glances, in things left unsaid. Because by the time Mercer arrived, nurses weren't just worried about their patients. They were worried about who was caring for them. And one name kept coming up in private conversations. Alyssa Ward, Chloe Ward, age 26, was not supposed to die. She was recovering rapidly from a simple appendectomy, healthy, laughing, ready to be discharged within 48 hours. But she died suddenly at 3:07 a.m. time of death recorded by Alyssa. When Chloe's parents demanded an autopsy, the results shocked the coroner. Her morphine levels were 5 times higher than prescribed. Her foresight showed signs of manual injection. She had no underlying conditions to explain her death. This wasn't medical failure. This was intervention. Mercer was called immediately. Mercer sat across from the attending physician. Mercer, who had access to Chloe Ward between midnight and 3 a.m.? The doctor hesitated, then answered quietly. Only one nurse, Alyssa Ward. That was the first time her name appeared in Mercer's notebook. It wouldn't be the last. Mercer pulled hospital mortality reports from the past year. In most hospitals, nighttime death rates rise by 10 to 20%. But Alyssa's units? When she was on shift, nighttime deaths increased by 92%. Mercer circled the number in red ink. This was an accident, not incompetence, not coincidence. It was a pattern, and patterns always lead to people. Detective Mercer began interviewing Alyssa's co-workers. Nurse Elena Pearson. I don't want to believe it, but I've seen her sitting at the bedside long after patients fall asleep, watching them, whispering to them. Charge Nurse Harris. I thought she was just compassionate, but now, every time someone coded on her shift, she was the last one in the room before it happened. Nurse Jared Mitchell. Look, I don't want trouble, but the truth? We call it the death dimple. That little smile she gets when a patient passes. It's like she's relieved. Mercer wrote a single line in his notebook. She chooses who dies, and she enjoys it. What Mercer discovered next chilled him. Alyssa often documented her interventions as comfort care dose, pain management, end-of-life anxiety relief, patient appearing distressed. And those terms, they allowed her to withdraw and administer medications without immediate doctor oversight. Alyssa found the loophole, and she weaponized it. The hospital security system stored footage for only 30 days. Mercer had to move fast. He watched screen for hours. Then at 2:54 a.m. on a Sunday morning, he saw it. Alyssa stepping into room 312 with a syringe hidden in her sleeve. A stable patient inside, Mr. Harold Benton, 73, had been recovering from a stroke. Alyssa closed the blinds, turned off the wall monitor, then leaned over the patient. Too close, too familiar, too long. Mercer leaned forward. At 3:06 a.m., she walked out calmly. At 3:12 a.m., the heart monitor flatlined. A nurse rushed inside. A code was called. Alyssa didn't return to help. She just stood at the doorway, hands clasped, watching. Mercer whispered to himself, "She's hunting them." 2 days later, a terrified CNA called Mercer at 1:13 a.m. Her voice was shaking. "Detective, you need to come now. Alyssa is in room 228 with Mr. Delacroix, and she has a syringe." Mercer and 2 officers raced to the hospital. By the time they reached the room, Alyssa was at the bedside, whispering softly, syringe in hand. She didn't even look surprised. She just looked annoyed. "Alyssa, you're interrupting something important." Mercer dropped the syringe. A long pause. A strange smile. Alyssa held up the syringe between her fingers like a delicate instrument. "Alyssa, he's suffering." Mercer, "No, you are killing him." A flicker in her eyes. Then she placed the syringe gently on the tray and whispered, "You don't understand. You never will." She let them cuff her without resistance, not frightened, not defensive, almost serene, as if she believed she was the only one doing the right thing. Hospitals save lives, but they also hide crimes better than almost any place on earth. Drugs vanish quietly. Patients die expected deaths. Charts can be rewritten. Protocols can be exploited. To catch a killer in a hospital, You must first prove that death itself was murder. And in the case of nurse Alyssa Ward, the investigation revealed horrors even the detectives weren't prepared for. Detective Ryan Mercer sits across from Alyssa in a small, cold interrogation room. She sits perfectly straight, hands folded, expression soft and calm, like she's interviewing them. She doesn't ask for a lawyer, doesn't panic, doesn't sweat, just smiles politely when Mercer begins recording. Mercer, do you understand why you're here? Alyssa, I assume it's about Mr. Delacroix. Soft laugh. You interrupted before I could help him. Mercer, help or kill? Alyssa doesn't flinch. Alyssa, detective, when you watch people suffer every day, trembling, choking, crying out for relief, you learn mercy. Mercer, you don't get to decide what mercy is. Alyssa leans forward, voice barely a whisper. Someone has to. Mercer's blood runs cold. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't regret. This was belief. Dr. Lydia Monroe, forensic pathologist, examines 3 bodies. Chloe Ward, 26. Harold Benton, 73. Marcus Hill, 52. All died under Alyssa's care. The report reads, lethal morphine concentrations, unprescribed sedatives, air bubbles in 4 lines, deliberate air embolisms, bruising consistent with manual 4 manipulation. Dr. Monroe removes her gloves and turns to Mercer. These weren't mercy killings. These were executions. Mercer tightens his jaw. He was no longer investigating patients who died unexpectedly. He was investigating serial homicide. While searching supply rooms, Mercer notices a bin labeled, Sharp's Disposal, do not open. A janitor slips and says, oh, Nurse Alyssa always empties that one herself. Says she doesn't want anyone else getting poked. Mercer freezes. No nurse empties Sharp's disposal bins. Ever. He orders the bins seized. Inside they find 14 syringes. All used, all wiped clean on the outside, all containing trace amounts of multiple narcotics. Fingerprint analysis reveals Alyssa's prints on the caps, no prints on the needles, and on 2 syringes, prints from deceased patients, suggesting she forced a syringe into their hands to imply self-administration. Dr. Monroe whispers. She staged their involvement. It's ritualistic. A search warrant allows access to Alyssa's phone, her locker, her laptop, her nursing notes, her email. The findings disturb every investigator. Her Google searches. Morphine overdose time to death. How to calculate fatal dose. Can air in 4 cause quick death? Signs of dying peacefully. Her notes app, a list titled Those Who Needed Rest. 17 names. Every name matched the dead patient. Her journal entry. Handwritten, calm, almost beautiful penmanship. I am not killing them. I am releasing them. Pain is a prison. I am the key. Mercer closes the journal slowly. This isn't a murderer trying to hide. This is a murderer trying to justify. During a psychiatric analysis session, profiler Dr. Monroe asks, Alyssa, how do you choose who dies? Alyssa smiles warmly. Alyssa, I don't choose. They tell me. Monroe, how? Alyssa places her hand gently over her heart. Alyssa, I can feel it. When someone's soul is ready, their breathing changes. They look at me differently, like they're asking. Monroe's voice tightens. Monroe. And if they're not ready, Alyssa's smile widens. Alyssa, oh, they all become ready eventually. Monroe's notes describe narcissistic altruism, savior complex, psychopathic detachment, delusional belief in her gift, complete inability to perceive wrongdoing. This wasn't mercy. It was control disguised as compassion. Alyssa wasn't ending suffering. She was deciding who was worthy of life and who wasn't. In storage, investigators find Alyssa's old employment records. She worked at 3 previous hospitals, a retirement facility, a private hospital, a rural clinic. Each location had elevated nighttime death rates, patients who passed peacefully, unexplained spikes in morphine use, and all 3 facilities filed internal concerns about her. but she left before any investigation could begin. Alyssa had been doing this for over a decade. The estimated death toll? 46 victims. Possibly more. Mercer sits across from Alyssa one last time. She is calm, serene, hair neatly tied back. Mercer: "How many did you kill?" She smiles kindly. Alyssa: "Detective, you're asking the wrong question." Mercer leans in. Mercer: "Fine. Why did you kill them?" She closes her eyes softly. Alyssa: "I didn't kill them. I ended their pain." Opens eyes. "Isn't that what healing truly is?" Mercer whispers, "You're not a healer. You're a murderer." For the first time, her smile disappears. Alyssa, coldly: "You don't understand Mercy." The investigation exposed every syringe, every forged medical note, every patient whose quiet death wasn't natural at all. But one question remained. Why? Why would a nurse, trained to save lives, choose to take them? Detective Ryan Mercer needed an answer, and in the final days of the interrogation, he got one. But it wasn't the answer anyone expected. Profiler Dr. Monroe sat down with Alyssa for what would become the most haunting interview of her career. Alyssa looked peaceful, hair neatly clipped, uniform ironed, hands folded in her lap like a schoolgirl. Monroe: "Alyssa, we need to understand. Why these patients? Why now? Why you?" Alyssa smiled gently. "Alyssa, it wasn't me." Pauses. "It was them." Monroe leaned forward. "This was new." "Monroe, they asked you?" Alyssa nodded slowly, as if recalling something holy. "Alyssa, when you sit with people who are dying, really sit with them, you hear things others don't." Monroe kept her voice steady. "What did you hear?" Alyssa closed her eyes. A faint smile crossed her lips. "Alyssa, they were tired. A beat. Alyssa, they wanted rest, and no one else could give it to them." Monroe's note, as she would later testify: "Alyssa does not view herself as a killer. She sees herself as a savior, a chosen one, a deliverer." Mercer dug deeper into Alyssa's past. Her childhood was filled with a chronically ill mother, a father addicted to painkillers, frequent hospital visits, years of watching suffering she couldn't stop. At age 19, she cared for her dying grandmother, a woman writhing in agony from late-stage cancer. Alyssa was alone with her that night. Her grandmother died shortly after Alyssa administered her medication. The family suspected, but no one proved anything. Alyssa grew up believing something twisted. Mercy means ending pain, even if it means ending life. This wasn't insanity. This was ideology, a self-created religion, her own commandment. After 17 hours of interrogation, over 3 days, Alyssa finally spoke the words Mercer had been waiting to hear. It happened in the middle of a silence, after hours of calm questioning. She lifted her head, looked Mercer in the eyes, and said, "Fine. You want numbers? 17 here, 21 in the last hospital, 8 at the retirement home." Mercer froze. 46. She said it with no tremor, no shame, just a soft, confident certainty. "Alyssa, they needed me." Pauses. "Without me, their suffering would have lasted longer. Isn't that worse?" Mercer stood. He couldn't look at her anymore. This wasn't confession. It was pride. Alyssa watched him walk to the door. "Alyssa, you'll never understand mercy, detective. Only those who watch suffering up close do." Mercer didn't turn around. "Mercer, I understand murder. The trial lasted 19 days. The prosecution called her the Angel of Death, a predator in scrubs, a serial killer disguised as a caregiver. Families of victims filled the courtroom. Some cried, some glared, some still couldn't believe it. Alyssa entered each morning with the same soft smile. When the victims' photos were shown, she lowered her head, not in shame, but in something disturbingly like prayer. Dr. Monroe took the stand. She believed she was relieving suffering, but this belief was delusional, narcissistic, and deadly. Mercer presented the syringes, the journals, the footage, the autopsy reports. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 34 minutes. That's all it took. They returned with a verdict. Guilty on 32 counts of first-degree murder. Guilty on 14 counts of attempted murder. The courtroom gasped. Alyssa didn't. She whispered softly, "I saved them." The judge sentenced her to life in prison without parole. Not a single sound came from Alyssa. Not a tear. Not a flinch. Only a whisper as she was led away. "I only wanted to help." Detective Mercer visited his mother's grave the night after sentencing. She died the natural way, slowly, painfully, surrounded by family. He placed flowers on her stone, then whispered, "Mercy isn't killing. Mercy is staying, even when it hurts." That was the difference. The one Alyssa never understood. As Mercer walked back to his car, he felt a shiver. Hospitals will always have death, always have suffering, always have shadows. But now he knew something he wished wasn't true. It's not always a disease that kills people. Sometimes it's the one person trusted to save them.